Hi, I'm Jake Warner. I'm the CEO and founder of Cycle.io, and I wanted to make this video today to talk about a feature that we just announced. A little bit of context first. So we started building Cycle about 8 years ago as a simpler alternative to Kubernetes. The idea with Cycle was that you would connect it to AWS, you'd connect it to GCP, you'd connect it to Vultr, just any of your existing cloud providers that we've integrated with, and it would make it more easy for your team to set up automation and deploy containers and all the different kind of DevOps tasks that typically go into that. But over the last few months, we've had a number of companies reaching out to us saying, hey, we love the value of Cycle. It makes things so much easier for our team. It allows our developers, it removes so much friction that our developers typically encounter. But we want to run it we want to run it our way. We want to run it on-prem, or we want to run it in a colo data center, or however, they have their infrastructure set up. And historically with Cycle, there has been a pathway to run Cycle wherever you wanted it to, but it's a pretty complex process. Sometimes it would take somewhere up to 8 weeks of engineering time to make that happen. So we knew it was something that we could improve on. And that is where we get to this new feature. And that is a feature called virtual providers. So as I jump to my screen, so for the people who might be watching this that are new to Cycle, this is a demo account that we have up and running. This is our portal. Know that there's, even though I'm going to be clicking around quite a bit today, during this demo, that everything that you see today can be fully automated through our API or through stack files. Or there's just a number of ways to fully automate this. But within this demo account, you'll notice that we have a couple different servers at different providers. So we have some at Vultr, some at GCP, some at server over at AWS, and then we have some servers that are sitting down in our home labs, which bring us to the feature that we're talking about today. So if I jump down into my hub and then click into integrations, you'll see again this account is integrated with a couple providers through our native integrations. But you'll see here this is our new feature called virtual providers. So if I click virtual provider, I can go over and I can say I want to add an integration. Let's just name this demo. We'll give it an identifier of demo as well. And then we have a location code. So a location code would be very helpful if a company wanted to say like, hey, this is, this specific integration is for a rack of server setting our office, versus a company that might have infrastructure in, a couple different data centers where they want to be able to differentiate based off of, they want to be able to deploy applications to specific data centers based off of that location. That's where this could come in handy. But for the sake of the demo here, we're just going to make this global. We'll just pretend that all of that infrastructure is going to live under the same provider, and we're going to go ahead and click add. So once we have our integration here, our virtual provider, and the reason why we named it virtual provider is because the idea is that it's allowing anyone to become their own infrastructure provider. Now, once we have this, I'm going to go ahead and click edit, and you'll see at the bottom here, it says we have no ISOs. So I'm going to go ahead and click create ISO. It's going to bring up the screen. I'll give it a name. Let's just say that this is for let's just say it's a home lab. Now, one of the important things to note about Cycle before we go further is Cycle OS, which is what all of these servers will run. Cycle OS is never installed to disk. It is pulled from our iPXE endpoint every single time a server starts. Now, the neat thing about that is that if you ever had corruption, or maybe you had some sort of vulnerability in one of your applications and a user was able to get into the host, or whatever the reason is, you start that server, and at least from an operating system perspective, you're back to a clean slate every time. And so because of this model of being able to connect Cycle, because of this model where Cycle needs to download the OS every time, we need to provide a little bit of extra details around like an iPXE configuration. So suppose inside of this home lab, this demo user was running these servers on VLAN 35. So we'll put that here, and we'll just say that they wanted to continue using the HTTP. We'll click next. And then we're into this next screen. So this next screen is where you are configuring post boot. So this is now when CycleOS has been downloaded, it's been initialized. If you want to, how do you want to configure your network interfaces at that point? So suppose we have one interface that is public, and we want that to be on VLAN 35 as well. Maybe we only want to have IPv4 for DHCP, and let's go ahead and add another interface. We'll say this is Eth1. Maybe this is like a private interface between nodes. Let's say this is on VLAN 40. And if you wanted to configure static networking, you could. We'll just say we want to DHCP all for that private interface. We're going to go ahead and click Next. And Cycle will give you an example configuration of what that would look like for your ISO. Now we're going to go ahead and click Create ISO. And then I'm going to click Generate. So at this point, Cycle's going to spend Cycle's going to spend about a minute and a half or so building a custom ISO for you. This ISO is going to have all the authentication needed to at least precede that node. And so whether you want to boot this ISO via like a network boot, or whether you want to put it on a flash drive and plug it into a server, either one of those work. So I guess I'll cut this video right now and in a minute, and I'll show you what this looks like from an infrastructure perspective, and then I'll see you back here afterwards. So I'm sitting here in front of my home lab. I have a couple servers here. I have the flash drive that has the ISO that we just made, and I'm going to go ahead and plug it into one of my servers. And if I can, we all know the struggle of one-handed USB. Okay, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. If I can get the button. And there we go. So it's booting. And when we return back in front of my machine, we'll quarantine it and continue. And we're back in front of my machine. You'll notice that this is that server that we just provisioned, or rather, that I put the flash drive into. We can see that it's in quarantine. So I'm going to click that server. And the reason why these go into to quarantine is, so obviously if your ISO does get out or whatever reason, you can't have someone join infrastructure to your cluster without knowing that. So we'll go ahead and join this into our development cluster. I'm going to go ahead and click Remove Quarantine. And right now, that server in my home lab is just restarting over and over and over, waiting for permission to continue. So that'll take a second. We'll give that a minute. So a couple minutes later, and you can see that server, as it continued to restart, it recognized that the quarantine was removed. It has now gone into a configuration state. That means that it is checked in successfully. And in another probably 30 seconds or so, it'll move into an online state. And at that point, we can begin deploying applications to it. And there we go. About a minute later, and now the server's online, is checked in. We're going to go and rename it just so that way, or give it a nickname so that way I remember which server it was. So chassis 2, server 1, click update. And there we go. So now with that server, I can go jump over to our environments. So on top of Cycle, you have your clusters, which we just talked about. Clusters are backed by servers, and then you have your environments. And so environments are like, you can think of them as like virtual private clouds. They are all their own fully encrypted private networks. So even though this development cluster is powered by those 7 servers that you just saw, these environments span all of those 7 clusters, so that way you get better multi-tenancy. You get better multi-tenancy, but again, each environment is still fully isolated on its own. So if I jump into this VP demo, we're going to go over into containers. You'll notice that we have this website container. Right now there's 4 copies of it. So if I jump into instances, we can see here, one's running on Alex's home lab, one's running on my home lab, and then 2 are over at Vultr. So again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, the fact that with Cycle you can be multi-cloud, hybrid, mix. You can be multi-cloud and also mix and match hybrid infrastructure. So you can be running some stuff on bare metal, some stuff on VMs, some stuff in the cloud, some stuff on-prem. You really can just kind of join infrastructure from anywhere into Cycle and build from that infrastructure. So, for example, let's take this third instance here. Right now, this is just another copy of this example website. It's running on top of Vulture right now, on top of a Vulture VM. But let's go ahead and move that to our new server. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to select that server that we just deployed. Go ahead and click Migrate. And that instance is gonna move. There you go. So it's now up and running. Or technically, it's still starting. We'll give that a second. And there we go. So now it's up and running. And so very quickly, you can see we just quite literally moved the container instance from a cloud provider down to local on-prem, and we could go the opposite order as well. But point being, Cycle makes it, again, as I kind of alluded to earlier, you can join all this infrastructure together and just manage it all as one single entity from one single platform. Now, there's going to be a whole bunch of other features that will accompany what you just saw. They'll all kind of, maybe not all, but many of those features will be built around the idea of making an easy button for bare metal. And just, again, being able to build a private cloud of any infrastructure anywhere. But without going any deeper into this video, it's probably already a decently long video. If you want to get updates and kind of follow along with what we're working on, I'd welcome you to do so. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Number one would be to join our Slack community. You can do that at slack.cycle.io. And we also have a community, a web-based a community that it can be found at cycle.io/community. We also have a changelog where we push all of our updates. That's cycle.io/changelog, and you can subscribe to get the changelog emails. But yeah, if you have any questions on anything that you saw today, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to answer your questions, and hope to chat soon. Thank you.